What is up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Elon Thalima, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how to take the perspective of God to solve all your problems in the physical world. Now, in a lot of new age spirituality type of movements, I see people referring to God as a frequency. Okay, but that's the first thing that I want to dispel, because this is a biophysics concept. Okay, frequency is not a spiritual concept. It's not a Kabbalistic concept. It's not an occult concept. It is a concept of physics. And what frequency means is what frequency means is the oscillation of a wave. So if a wave oscillates like this very quickly, you can say it has a high frequency, and if it oscillates like this very slowly or slowly, you can say it has a medium or lower frequency, right? So God is not the highest frequency in terms of the highest oscillation of a wave, but it would be more accurate to say that God is an electromagnetic force. So oftentimes the people who say God is a frequency, they say God is just a force of energy like gravity or electricity, and that might be a more accurate way to perceive the problem so that you can solve it. But God is not only electromagnetic. Let me just write that down. So we have electro, okay, we have magnetic. So electromagnetic. So electricity is what goes through your body. Electricity is the thing that your brain produces, that goes to your heart, that goes to your gut, your liver, all your organs, in order to power your body. When you're lifting weights in the gym, your brain is sending electrical signals to your muscles so that they work. If you have brain damage, you can't move. The electrical circuitry is broken. Now, it's also magnetic. The Earth has a gravitational field. The sun has a gravitational field. The moon has a gravitational field. For all you people who believe in astrology and stuff like that, this is all magnetic forces. And this is true. When the moon is in a certain position in the sky, the water on Earth interacts with the moon in a certain way. This is the basis of all astrological beliefs. And astrology is based on the fact that wherever the moon is, wherever the Earth is around the sun, wherever the moon is around the Earth, that magnetic energy creates resonances that affect us here on planet Earth. And it does affect us because we are electromagnetic organisms. The electricity that courses inside our body is impacted by the magnetic energies around us. But this cannot be God, because there is another aspect to God, and that is the psychological aspect. Psycho or psychic. So when someone is psychic, they're able to tap into psychic energy that exists between all of us, and then through the electromagnetic field influence another person with their psychic energy. So it would be accurate to say that God is not a frequency, but a psycho-electromagnetic energy. Psycho-electromagnetic energy. So God is a psycho-electromagnetic energy, and we are a psycho-electromagnetic energy. And thus, we have the Star of David. This is a horrible Star of David, but the Star of David, as above, so below. This is what the Star of David represents. So what is that? We have masculine, we have feminine, we have heaven, and earth. There is no hell. If you believe in hell, get off this video, close the video right now, don't subscribe to my channel. There's no hell. There's heaven and earth. There's masculine and feminine. There's the microcosm and the macrocosm. That's us, and we are the microcosm, and God is the macrocosm. There's also atom, and Adam. Atom is the electrical cell inside of your body. This is a cell that functions on electricity. Adam is us. So atom, Adam, and then the universe. Atom, universe. Trinity, right? Tiny, medium size, big size. So you are essentially God. Your body is a representation of the universe. You can see this anywhere. The Kabbalistic tree of life, the chakra system, whatever. It's been proven a million times, and now I just proved it pseudo biophysics scientifically for you. So how do we use this information in order to be the God of our own life? And I'm going to approach this problem from the psychoelectromagnetic thing. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to get our psychic energy to be aligned with the energy of the universe. So how does our psychic energy work? Same thing, we have a trinity, like we always have a trinity, and we have the conscious mind, we have the subconscious mind, and then we have the unconscious mind. And then around this, we have the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is like the quantum field, the Akashic records. It's the energy field that we download from. You can call that God. It really just depends. Everything like the word God, for example, all of these words, God, the devil, Lucifer, Hermes Trismegistus, Moses, Jesus Christ, all they are is we're taking Platonic forms that exist in the collective unconscious, and we're just grouping them together and giving them a name according to our own psychic understanding of it, right? So when I say the devil, you're thinking of certain things, right? You might be thinking guilt, shame, every bad thing about myself, everything I hate, everything I don't want to be, right? Whereas somebody else might think the devil and think something else. What you're doing is you're just taking a bunch of things that exist in the collective unconscious and you're grouping them together. For example, if I take Carl Jung's archetypes, right? And let's say I take the archetype of the warrior and I say, I'm a warrior, right? If I'm a warrior, that means that I fight, I train physically, I'm aggressive, I'm, maybe savage, right? And then I also have the archetype of the magician. What is the magician? Maybe I'm a nerd. I read a lot of books. I do spells in my room, and I try to influence reality with my mind. These are two different archetypes, right? But then what if I combine them and I become a paladin or a warrior magician? You see how these, whatever, my writing is just out of this world, but you see how none of these things stand alone, really. We can combine them however we want in order to create the image that we want in our own mind that drives us to action. So that becomes our subconscious. So consciously, I can decide I'm a warrior, or I'm a magician, or I'm a paladin, or I'm a warrior magician. But the more that I tell myself that, and this is where affirmations come into the picture, where if every day, I know this is getting kind of weird, but this is what comes up for me when I try to explain this. If every day when I wake up to myself and I make an affirmation, I am a warrior, I am a warrior, I am a warrior, and I constantly think of myself that way. When I play video games, I choose the warrior. I see myself as that. I look at my horoscope, and when I look at my horoscope, I specifically consciously look for things that validate my belief about that. I live my life in a way. I get tattoos of dragons and big cats, and I think of myself that way. It's going to start to seep into my subconscious. Now let's get scientific for a second here. Your subconscious mind is reprogrammed by what we call theta waves. Okay, now we're talking real science. You can look this up. Theta waves. I'm not talking about God as a frequency. I'm talking real, this is real science, theta waves. And when your brain is in theta waves, which you can measure this with a device that you put on your head called an EEG, okay, and we have one here, and I measure the brain waves that are emitting from my head. And this happens when you're in meditation, this happens when you're in hypnosis, and this happens when you're a kid, between 0 and 7. So if you like the warrior in the video game and you always played the warrior in the video game when you were a kid, you were reprogramming your subconscious mind to think of yourself that way, okay? So the conscious mind is only responsible for about 5% of all of our intentions and things that manifest into our life. The rest of it is in the subconscious and the unconscious mind. When people say, oh, you're only using 10% of your brain or 5% of your brain, that's technically not true. Your entire brain is being used. What they mean is you're only using 5 or 10% of your conscious efforts, because the rest of it is programmed in your subconscious and unconscious. And we can consciously reprogram our subconscious. And when we consciously reprogram our subconscious, then things start to manifest into reality. Things start to happen. Like if I reprogram my subconscious by deciding consciously that I want to buy a red Prius, let's say I decide I want to buy a red Prius, then suddenly I start seeing red Priuses everywhere. When I walk around, red Priuses just start popping up everywhere. But really what I did was I sent an intention to my subconscious mind to notice the red Prius, and I reprogrammed my subconscious to notice the red Prius, and then consciously I start noticing more red Priuses. It's not necessarily that more red Priuses exist, it's just that I reprogram my subconscious so that my conscious notices it. But my conscious, while I'm living in my ego, it doesn't realize that I reprogrammed it. So to me, it seems like I'm manifesting if I don't understand this stuff. But either way, this stuff is super deep, and I'm not always thinking like this, right? We can't always, put everything down on a whiteboard and really explain it. So is it manifesting? Is it reprogramming your subconscious? It's really impossible to know. And this is where we get into the third aspect of God. Just like we have the collective unconscious and we have the psychoelectromagnetic force, this is according to Newtonian physics. And Newtonian physics is the physics that we live in when we live in 4D. Okay, this is kind of science, Newtonian physics is a real thing. We really do live in 4D. This isn't just stuff that spiritual people make up. What 4D is we have time, and then we have the 3 dimensions of reality, like a square has 3 dimensions, height, width, depth, and then the 4th dimension is time. So this is what Albert Einstein was describing, space-time. This is Newtonian physics, 4D. But when we go into 5D, when we say living 5D, I see Joe Dispenza talking about 5D. It sounds cool, but what we're really describing is not Newtonian 4D physics, but quantum physics. And quantum physics, we don't quite understand it, and they extrapolated a lot to talk about spirituality and stuff like that. But what we're really describing is the quantum effects that exist outside of our ability to perceive them, and then influence the psychoelectromagnetic 4D reality. And this isn't dualistic, right? You can't, it's not like heaven and hell where they're separate. They're both part of the same system. So where quantum phenomena end and where Newtonian physics begins, we don't know. So we don't know if, for example, it's simply that I'm reprogramming my subconscious mind, which is constantly causing me to see more red Priuses, or if I quantum shifted while doing my manifestation or my affirmations or whatever, meditations, prayers, it's possible that what I did was, in doing that, I actually quantum shifted in here to a different reality where now more red Priuses exist, and now I'm consciously recognizing more Priuses because I'm actually in an alternate timeline. And what a lot of the Kabbalah people think, and this is, an esoteric concept that has existed for a long period of time, is that when you sleep, when you meditate and all this different stuff, you could be quantum shifting into an alternate timeline. This is real science, but also not real science at the same time. This is a theory that a lot of quantum physics people have, but it's an unproven theory. It's a metaphysical claim. So either way, how you look at it, it just helps you understand this whole thing when you want to solve your problem. So how do you be God? How do you be the thing, the quantum thing, the collective unconscious thing? How do you draw out from that field in order to I was going to say shave your life, because I'm looking at myself right now. I don't need a shave. I have an amazing beard, but to change your life, right? Well, you need to understand, how do I influence my unconscious mind and then bring those forms out into my subconscious and into my conscious. And the only way to reprogram your unconscious mind is when you're dreaming. So when you're dreaming or in a state between, when you're in that semi-lucid state, like that thing with the psychologist where they would hold a ball in their hand and then they would allow themselves to sleep and drop the ball and then have a revelation during that time. You should try that. Interesting experiment. So what your unconscious, you want to bring out a new unconscious form that is going to change your timeline, right? And the way to do that is you need to reprogram your subconscious mind through affirmations, prayers, or different kind of rituals. And if you want to know more about that, just comment below. I can tell you a bunch of different rituals you can do, meditations you can do. I'll probably come out with a course on this in the future on how to reprogram, how to use your conscious mind to reprogram your subconscious mind. And then your subconscious mind is started to dig into the unconscious of your mind and summon out a new form. But these things will happen during dreams. And that's why it's so important to keep a dream journal, because you want to start to lucid dream and you want to start to control the narrative that is being pushed in your dreams. So lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences, in really deep meditation. So this is where theta, this is real science now, this is where theta waves go to delta waves, delta. And delta waves are something we don't really understand too much, but or maybe I don't understand too much, but I understand more than you, so keep watching. And basically what they can do, well, I understand what they do. How to access them is a little bit more complicated. What they do is they help you heal the body rapidly. So if you ever seen Joe Dispenza talk about people getting out of wheelchairs, healing their cancer, this is real science because they're tapping into delta waves. And again, you can measure these with a machine. I'll make another video later showing you guys the EEG machine that we use to actually measure our brain waves, and you can see on the computer, he's in this brainwave state, and then when you meditate, you can see he's in this brainwave state, and you can use binaural beats, isochronic tones to more quickly shift your brainwave state. Again, this is stuff for other videos. But when you're in delta wave frequencies, you're basically unconscious. Like if somebody knocks you out with an anesthetic, ketamine therapy, something like that, where the default mode network, which is responsible for your ego, right? Constructing the sense of self that you walk around with every day, is shut off. And your brain is releasing delta waves. That's when you can reprogram your unconscious mind. So you can change yourself seriously, like quantum shift into a different reality. One reality you were a warrior, next day you wake up and you're a magician. This is what happens when people have a Christ, awakening. And this is a very common thing. In Kabbalah, we call this energy the Christ energy. I'm going to use Kabbalistic terms on this channel because I'm a student of real Jewish Kabbalah also, on top of all this occult stuff, and because that's the basis of everything. And in Kabbalah, we call this Tiferet. Tiferet represents your heart, and your heart, this is real science now, your heart has a lot of neurons, and it creates a lot of electricity from your brain, your heart. Every time your heart beats, it creates electricity. When you do an EKG at the clinic, you can do an EKG, say, how's my heart health? They're measuring the electromagnetic field outside of your heart when they do an EKG. So literally, they're putting sensors and your heart is emitting a real electromagnetic field. If you ever heard of an aura, whatever, something like that, what they were talking about is the electromagnetic field. This is real science. You can Google this. that you can measure with an EKG. So this is metaphysical to ferret your heart, Christ, but your heart is a real electromagnetic organ with real neurons that really connect with your brain, but you're not thinking with your heart, you're thinking with your brain, right? Well, I guess they say like thinking with your heart because it's so powerful metaphorically. Like I said, this is non-dual, this is all tied together. It's hard to divide the science from the occult, and that's why I say I'm biophysics and occult. I'm going to teach you both because you cannot understand one without understanding the other at the end of the day. Science and mysticism will mix in the 21st century, and you'll see that. And this channel, you're on the cutting edge if you're watching this, because I'm on the front end of this. I'm on the cutting edge of this. I'm going to be one of the people who brings this to the public, because there's not a lot of people who know both the biophysics, the science, and the occult stuff. Usually people focus on one because they're not smart enough, but I have that high Ashkenazi IQ. Okay, look it up. So to ferret the Christ energy, the neurons, the EKG, all of these forces are responsible for transformation, okay? And this is why when people have a near-death experience, which is an out-of-body experience, so out-of-body experience or a near-death experience, when you have a near-death experience, it shuts off your default mode network. This is real science, default mode network, and triggers you into this delta wave state where you can have an unconscious shift, a quantum unconscious shift. And that's why somebody might go from a drug addict, a sex addict, all this different stuff. Boom, suddenly they have a near-death experience. Their brain goes into delta waves. Things from the collective unconscious suddenly come through them in their unconscious mind, and slowly it influences their subconscious and their conscious, and they go from a drug addict, sex addict, whatever, to being somebody who is a Christian and worships Jesus Christ. The Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, they know this. They understand this because they studied Kabbalah, they studied mysticism, they've had a lot of mystics themselves, and they know this. So what they did was they positioned Jesus Christ right there. They took Yeshua of Nazareth, who was a mystic, he was an Essene mystic who studied pre-Kabbalah Jewish mysticism, and he knew a lot of this stuff, which is why he said what he said. They took him and they positioned him as the archetype. Okay, so they positioned Yeshua of Nazareth, who is a person, okay, not a god, just a person, a Gnostic, a Essene, look it up. They took Yeshua of Nazareth and they turned him into Jesus Christ, which is the unconscious archetype, the Jungian archetype. Look this up. Do your own research, okay? Don't just believe me. This is all stuff you can research yourself. And they made him into the archetype in the unconscious that you experience when you experience this Tiferet, this energy, okay? And all this different stuff is just energy that exists out there, psycho-electromagnetic energy that exists in the unconscious, and according to what you believe, it will manifest that way. And I know because I've had a Christ awakening. I've had, just like Paul of Tarsus, where Jesus came to me, saved me, helped me get out of all this different stuff. I went to the church. I did all the stuff. I did all that stuff. And that's what got me to, I went to the church because I had this awakening. Then I started reading about the Gnostic Christ. Then I got into Kabbalah. I started studying Kabbalah. Then I got into the science, and I was already into science and the occult stuff, which is the deepest possible understanding of this stuff. The church, they don't need you to understand all this stuff, because this video is called How to Be God Among All Your Problems, and you have to understand all this. The Rosicrucians say the first step is understanding. You have to understand all this esoteric stuff before you can realize that you are God among all your problems. Spinoza, look this up, Baruch Spinoza, he said that intellectual understanding is the first step before you can transform. So how to be God among all your problems? understand all this. Understand that there is no God on your problems but you. Not the Catholic Church, not any church, not Islam, not Judaism. No religion can possibly be a God among your problems, because you are that. You can turn somebody into the archetype of that. You can externalize that onto somebody else, like your priest or your church or whatever, or the influencers that you watch on YouTube. You know, Andrew Tate could be your God, whatever, whoever you want to choose. Joe Dispenza can be your God. I could be your God, whatever. But you don't need one. You need to realize that you are the one. So you could listen to everything that I say, and you could take everything I say as gospel, and you'll do great. You'll do great. There's no need to critically think, because I already did a lot of the thinking for you. That's exactly what the church says, right? And I'm trying to give you the empowerment so that you can think for yourself. Now, what to practically do once you realize all this stuff is something that I will explore in further videos. But realizing this stuff, even consciously right now, if this is the first time that you're hearing this, you have to understand that this stuff needs to penetrate your subconscious first. So you need to, the first step is to integrate this stuff into your subconscious mind. And the way to do that is to meditate on things with similar ideas to what I'm telling you right now. And when you do meditate, to think about this. So if you're already meditating on your own, just silently or with binaural beats, think about what I said. Think about all this. Also, rewatch this video. The more you watch my content or other similar channels, shout out to Neuro Knowledge, shout out to Joe Dispenza, shout out to Billy Carson, people who are talking about similar stuff, the more it starts to reprogram your subconscious mind. That's why they put things on social media. That's why they make the algorithm like it is, because they know that if they can reprogram your subconscious mind, you're gonna keep wanting to watch that type of content. Now, this could be good if this is good content, and if it's content of girls twerking or porn or whatever, then that's the impact that you're making on yourself, right? So keep watching this type of content, meditate on this type of stuff, look up guided meditations on this sort of similar concept, or look out for me to have guided meditations on this kind of similar concept. And that's the first step. And then once you can really feel, you want to generate the emotions inside of you that you are God. You know, God said in the Bible, I am, okay? And I had a mystical experience one time. I've had a lot now, and I want to teach you guys how to have them too. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm talking mystical experiences without psychedelics, without out-of-body experience. Well, I guess out-of-body experience, but without anesthetics like ketamine, nothing like that. Just sitting there meditating, having an out-of-body experience. And what I realized during that mystical experience was, I am. And that's what it just kept repeating to me. I am, I am. And I was like, what does this mean? And it was just like, yeah, I felt the vibration, like, I am, I am. And I was like, I realized in that moment, not consciously, but subconsciously, and then consciously later when I thought about it, that I am all of this shit. And I wouldn't be able to say all this stuff. I wouldn't have been able to come to this convoluted schizophrenic, whiteboard of things if I didn't like really feel it. You know what I mean? Because consciously understanding it is one thing, but really understanding it, and I'm not saying I'm enlightened or whatever. This is a process, and this is a process of trying to get myself to the point where I'm unconsciously competent about these topics, at which point I think if you can reach the unconscious competence of really embodying I am, I'd like to say that's when you've stopped the cycle of reincarnation, because what it means when you stop the cycle of reincarnation is when you're really able to go back into the collective unconscious and become an archetype yourself. Like, that's why people are always screaming that they're the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ, he transcended. He became part of the collective unconscious. He became the archetype that people are now embodying. And so he broke the cycle, and I think no longer needs to be resurrected anymore. And what he was trying to say when he got to that point, was, I am so you can be. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.